Obviously, I'm just doing this video from home. I had one that I did on location and it got erased, and I'm sure it's operator error because at my age, anything more complicated than a doorknob gives me problems. So technology is above my head. But anyway, I'll tell a little story of a community in McDowell County, West Virginia called Skygusty. We'll show a little bit of video of the drive through there here right after I get through telling the story. But it's such a great story because I absolutely love that town name. It's always stuck in my head. And I never did know the backstory when I was younger. So I was really thrilled to find out that it actually does have a really good backstory. And I'm about to tell it to you. And anyway, there was this back in the 1700s. There was this guy named Henry Harmon. He had two sons named Matthias and George. So they went on a hunting trip out of a settlement along with another guy named George Draper. And they were going back in there, and they stumbled upon a Indian camp. So they got a little nervous. They looked around and thought, well, man, this is, you know, looks like we'd be outnumbered here, so we might better get out of here. So about the time they started to pack their horses up and leave, they Draper started freaking out, and so Henry Harmon, who was 62 years old at the time, which is no spring chick. I mean, that was actually a long life for back then. He ended up living to be 95, but he was 62 at the time, and he was very concerned about Draper panicking, and so anyway, I was on the way back. Draper volunteered to ride out in front because he said he had better eyesight than Henry Harmon and that type of thing, although some people questioned his motive for doing that. Anyway, so they were not very far down the road when Draper claims to see the Indians. Well, they investigate and he hadn't. So they start back down the road again. So everybody's starting to doubt him. It's like the boy that cried wolf. So he they get down a little bit further and he again thinks he sees them. And so these guys are questioning him now, and they go up to investigate, and they're very doubtful about it. Well, about lo and behold, about that time they get jumped by the Indians. And so Harmon and his sons are dismounted from their horses, and then Draper takes off. He skedaddles and tries to get away. And so it's these three Harmons left to fight these Indians. It would end up being 7 of them. And the Indians had, some of them had bow and arrows, some of them had tomahawks, some of them had guns. And so the Harmon guys all had their guns, and so they had to stand off. And the historical account of that is that they formed a triangle, the Harmons, to fend off these Indians, and they started firing away. Well, they battle for a while, and ends up that Harmon, the elder Harmon, gets hit with an arrow, and it lodges a little bit below his rib. And anyway, the Harmons fire back, and they end up killing a couple of the Indians, including the leader. And so the rest of the Indians retreat. I've heard different stories that maybe they ran out of ammo in their guns, and then they knew that the Harmons would still be able to fire at them, so they just took off. Well, anyway, as they're leaving, Draper catches sight of them, and he's like, so he goes on back to the settlement, and he tells those guys that, the Harmons were all murdered, and he was the only one that survived. Well, the rest of the settlement goes out to try to find these guys' bodies and recover them to bury them. And sure enough, they run into these Harmon fellas. And so Draper looks pretty bad in this situation, obviously, and the story gets told from there. Well, anyway, the Indians, because of the Harmon fellow, the elder Harmon's bravery, a 62-year-old guy fighting you off, you got to respect for him. So they nicknamed him Skygusty. And that was roughly translated in Shawnee to brave warrior. And in the age-old habit of Appalachians everywhere, the Skygusty became Skygusty. And you'll see that a lot with a lot of names. I've seen it a billion times with someone named Sarah. They get pronounced Surrey. Or I had a guy in our family named Noah. Everybody called him Noe. I had no idea how it was spelled. And then when I saw it, I was like, wait a minute, Noah, how you get Noe out of that? But anyway, that's an age-old Appalachian tendency to do. So they nicknamed Harmon Old Skygusty. And that kind of stuck, so they named the area after him because he was pretty well respected, obviously, after that. I think this battle took place in 1788, if my math is correct, in November. So anyway, this guy must have been just a real bad dude, because, a tough guy. Because supposedly he said after it was over that and he's hit there with this arrow stuck in him, and he was saying, well, we whipped him, give me my pipe. I was like, man, that's straight out of a Clint Eastwood movie there. But anyway, that's the story of Skygusty, and that's been handed down for years and years and years and years. It was actually a little bit more elaborate tale of it in the, I think it's called The History of McDowell County, Virginia. Even though it's in West Virginia now, Skygusty is really just right across the McDowell County border, and that story is in the book, and it's a great story. Maybe I didn't tell it well, I don't know. But anyway, hope you enjoy this video about it, and I'll shut up and get off the couch here or whatever and let you watch it. Okay, Shane Simmons, Appalachian Project, coming at you from Skygusty, West Virginia, and that's in McDowell County. And I'm going to show you one of my favorite little things up here in a minute. I took a picture of this and posted it on our Facebook page a few years ago, and man, it got killer response. I didn't think that many people would remember it, but there's this little convenience store up here that's still standing. But again, Skygusty is not really a town per se, it's more of a community. I think a lot of times they name these places if they'd ever had a post office, but I don't even know if there is a Skygusty post office at this point. But here is the gorgeous, to me anyway, Skygusty grocery. I just love it, man. Boy, we got a popping response on that when I took a picture of it a while back. And obviously it's not been touched in several years, but yeah, that's brought back a lot of memories for a lot of people. They talked about going down there to buy some groceries and candy and all kinds of stuff, and it's really cool. Hopefully this will spark some people to mention some of those memories again, because really cool to see, and I just love the name Skygusty too. So I remember when I worked at First Community Bank, I remember having some clients in this area, and at that time I had never been. But Ginseng Hollow Road, yeah, ginseng's a huge crop up through here too. So that's a little look at Skygusty. I don't know where it begins and ends, to be honest with you, and I'm sure somebody else can point that out a lot better than I can, but a lot of these communities just run right smack in from one to another, so that's kind of what happened there. Anyway, I will see you on down the road.